maybe your business is doing pretty well, but you still don't feel that kind of sense of fulfillment and joy and freedom that you were hoping to find from your business. You could be in what we call the existential vacuum, which is this kind of meh state. Maybe you are just languishing. It's just somehow something is missing. You feel this kind of void in your life. When you get that vision for your life and you know very clear and definitely what you want to do, you are making the progress. You feel that sense of meaning and purpose and satisfaction. You can start today building towards that vision. One of the biggest problems we face is a failure of imagination. We are stuck where we are because we can't imagine a better version. We can't imagine that we can enjoy and find fulfillment in today, that we don't have to be doing that grind today. We're limited in our vision by what we see other people are doing. You need to open up that imagination and get a big vision for what is possible. Think of as specifically as possible of what you want to accomplish and who you're going to help. The other key is that you are writing it down and you are reading it every single day, because then it's becoming part of your mindset. And as you're saying it to yourself every day, your belief systems start to change. You start to change the way you see the world and the risk that you're willing to take, the steps that you're able to make towards that goal. My first two jobs, 9-to-5 jobs, the first one, I was totally stressed out, burned out. Then I found another one, much more reasonable, limited work hours, but then I felt meh. So when I got pregnant, I said, okay, I'm going to stay home with my kids. That's where I'll find my fulfillment. 3 years of that, I still felt that languishing, that existential void, vacuum, whatever you want to call it. And I knew that still wasn't the answer. Welcome to Mastering Business Flow, the essential podcast for business owners ready to transform their work life. I'm your host, Cords Lindau, a certified productivity and systems expert. I'll help you close that critical CEO gap, the gap between working hard and having real control over your business. We dive into the systems and skills of high-performing CEOs so that you can stop being stuck in daily tasks and start flourishing today. It's time to achieve simpler, higher quality living. Let's start flowing. Why did you start your business? My guess is that you had this idea of a better life, maybe more freedom, more time, more joy, financial freedom. However, now that you've started your business, you find yourself on a new, different kind of treadmill. Maybe you don't have that 9-to-5 grind, but now you're in the entrepreneurial grind. You didn't find the freedom that you were looking for. You just found a different kind of grind to be on. Now you're working probably even more than you were before. You are hustling for today, for this dream that you started your business for. You think one day it's going to happen, but it's not going to happen yet. You are stuck in this constant state of worry. You're trying to get the business to succeed, grow, scale, or whatever. You're just pushing off that dream until you get over whatever today's problem is. Part of it is that now you have no separation between your business and yourself. Like everything is wrapped up in that business. And you're constantly thinking about the business and it's consuming. And it can be that maybe your business is actually doing pretty well, but you still don't feel that kind of sense of fulfillment and joy and freedom that you were hoping to find from your business. You could be in what we call the existential vacuum, which is this kind of meh state. Maybe you are just languishing. It's just somehow something is missing. You feel this kind of void in your life. Or it could be that you are in survival state. You are constantly putting out fires, reacting to emergencies. You aren't able to basically breathe and think and plan. This is not the feeling you were after when you started your business, right? Think back to that dream. Is this really what you wanted? Are you there? My first two jobs, 9-to-5 jobs, the first one, I was totally stressed out, burned out, and I'm like, I can't do this 9-to-5. Then I found another one, much more reasonable, limited work hours, and I thought, okay, well, this is the answer. But then I felt meh. So when I got pregnant, I said, okay, I'm going to stay home with my kids. That's where I'll find my fulfillment. 3 years of that, I still felt that languishing, that existential void, vacuum, whatever you want to call it. And I knew that still wasn't the answer. However, I have found fulfillment in my work since then. It's not any one of these in particular, but there is something you do. And really it goes back to psychology. There are 3 really important psychologists who've studied this. Viktor Frankl, who wrote Meaning of Life, something like that. Martin Seligman, who wrote Flourish, and Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who wrote Flow. Essentially, all three of these psychologists spent years, if not decades, studying what is it that makes people happy? What is it that makes them feel flourish, feel fulfillment? To feel that kind of completeness that we're after. And I think really this is why we start our businesses. It's for that kind of feeling. It's like, it's hard to put your fingers on it exactly, but this is our goal when we start the businesses. Well, if you go and look at any of those three authors or three psychologists, there's a common theme. One thing that they all agree on is that we want to have this vision of a better world, a better life, and that we see a path forward. We feel that we are making meaningful progress. So not just that it's this big empty pipe dream, but that we feel that we're moving and progressing. Our story today is building into that vision we have of the future. So it has what we're doing today is meaningful, basically. And this happens with our business too, right? Maybe you just do the business because, it's going to make money. But it's not maybe fulfilling that greater purpose. And you are just going in this kind of treadmill. You're just going, but you're not really sure where you want to go. Maybe one day you're doing this, the next day you're doing that. But if you set this vision for your life and for your business, you will experience three really big benefits. One of them is that you'll start enjoying the business today. You're not waiting for this future time when the business brings the fulfillment. You're not sacrificing today's joy for tomorrow's empty promises. You feel that fulfillment today because you know you're working on something meaningful. The second thing is that having that big vision of what you're doing and what you're building will give you grit. Grit is that key character trait. And if you want to learn more about character traits, that's my episode 3. That vision will give you the motivation and the grit that allows you to stay in your business and keep to it and pull through the hard times, because those hard times will come and you need something to pull you beyond that. And the business stats of failure are people who don't have that grit. Now, this is not 100%. There are other things that happen, but when we have this vision, we find ways around. We can stay our course, and we become more creative to pull our way through and find solutions. When I signed up for a marathon, it kept me running on those days that I didn't feel like it. If I did not have that vision of I want to run a marathon, I would have been like, I'm only going to run 2 miles today instead of the 12 I was supposed to run. Or maybe I would say, it's raining, it's snowing, it's too hot, it's too cold, I'm not going to run. But by having that goal, it kept me going. And the same thing happens in our business. The other thing is you will experience more success when you have that vision. And why? Because it shows you where to focus your efforts. This is where I'm going. I'm not going to do, so I'm focused on A, I'm not going to do B or C. And the same like with the marathon, right? When I signed up for the marathon, I knew what it was that I needed to do. I knew I couldn't just go out and run however many miles I felt like that day. I knew I had to build gradually. I had to start small. I couldn't just start going out and run 26 miles the first day. My husband's a great inspirational story because he started with just 10 minutes a day. But within a year, ran his first marathon. And that's all because he had that vision. He knew where he was going and he saw the steps that he had to do. And we do the same with our business. Once we know where we're going, we know the steps that we need to take. And we can also know the steps that are not going to help. So if I know that I want to run a marathon, that means I'm not going to not run, or I'm not going to, just bike or swim. That's not going to get me where I want to go. So today I'm going to talk about what a clear vision looks like for your business and your life, because we really want to put those two together. If you started that business for finding fulfillment, you want to make sure that the vision you have for your life is supported by the vision you have for your business. The business is going to support your life vision. And then we're also going to talk about how you create that vision. I think the first problem and the reason we don't have, we have some sort of vision, right? Or we wouldn't have started the business in the first place. But I also think one of the biggest problems we face is a failure of imagination. We are stuck where we are because we can't imagine a better version. And for example, the idea of I'm still going to grind today because tomorrow it's going to eventually be there. It's because we can't imagine that we can enjoy and find fulfillment in today, that we don't have to be doing that grind today. My hip, I faced this failure of imagination with my friends strangers, they had a failure of imagination. The doctors had a failure of imagination. In their mind, the only thing that was going to solve the problems I had with my hip was a hip replacement. There was no other solution. I had another imagination. I knew it could be better without a hip replacement. I found a physical therapist to work with, and with diligent training with them, I was able to run a 15K within a year of going from canes and daily pain meds and not being able to sleep at night. And I'm training for my second 15K now. That is when we open up the possibilities of imagination and are not limited by what people around us are telling us, that we can imagine a different reality. Chicken Soup for the Soul. They were told when they came up with that book, the publisher said, maybe we can do 20,000. That's all we're going to print. They said, no, we see that we can print 1 million. This was a failure of imagination by the publisher. What ended up happening? They have now printed over 500 million copies. The authors had the imagination. The publisher had the failure of imagination. Banking fees. Many of us pay banking fees because of failure of imagination. It's what everybody's doing. We don't realize that we don't have to pay these banking fees. The banks are getting profits off of our money. There are other ways that places we can put our money that keep it safe and we don't have to pay those fees for. The problem is we're too often stuck in this vision. We're limited in our vision by what we see, what other people are doing. And this is why we want this kind of BHAG, this big, hairy, audacious goal, something that kind of scares us, that is out of our normal, but it could still be achievable, right? But we want to have this big vision of our lives because that's going to be something that excites us and motivates us. This is the 10x thinking versus the 2x thinking. If you're just thinking 2x, you're just going by what everybody around you is doing. You need to open up that imagination and get a big vision for what is possible. So how does this work? How can we develop this BHAG, this big, hairy, audacious goal for our lives, and how the business is going to support that vision? One of the oldest and most well-known is the Chief Definite Aim, developed by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. And this is really a very simple. You want to get very clear and specific of what you expect to achieve. There's ones from Bruce Lee, and I think I heard Dax Shepard talking once about will receive $100,000, but I can't remember exactly what this is. I just remember him talking about it one time, by such and such date. And he kept on a little piece of paper in his wallet, because this is the key. You want to be very specific about it, not just say, I'm going to get rich. Like, how much money? When is it going to happen by? Or who are you going to be serving? Who are you going to be helping? Think of as specifically as possible of what you want to accomplish and who you're going to help. And then the other key is that you are writing it down and you are reading it every single day, because then it's becoming part of your mindset. And as you're saying it to yourself every day, your belief systems start to change. And then your thoughts start to change, which means your actions start to change. You start to change the way you see the world and the risk that you're willing to take, the steps that you're able to make towards that goal. So having that chief definite aim and saying it to yourself every day is a key component. And it can't be simply that simple, but maybe that you don't know where to start with that. And if you Google it, you can find lots of things. Plus I'll put all these links in the show notes. Another thing a lot of people like to do is what's called the eulogy exercise. Now it sounds a bit morbid, but I have found this particular one very powerful. It's if you think of your funeral and what would you want someone to say? What would they say about the people that you loved, what you accomplished? And when you come up with that, what you want people to say about you, that really is a key way to get at what's important to you and what inspires you and motivates you and moves you. So I think this is a really powerful exercise. And the projects, whatever, it shows a lot of what your interests are. Now, the thing that is important with all these is by reading them every day, it's getting very clear, and it's also creating what is called this kind of cognitive dissonance, right? You read it and you see where your life is, and maybe it's like, wait a minute. First of all, it's a reminder of where you want to go. And it's a reminder of, oh, I need to be doing something towards that goal, because that's the cognitive dissonance, that you see you're here and this is your dream, that you're not at that dream. But you now have that motivation. Your brain is telling you something's wrong. You need to do something. You need to act in order to get closer to that vision. So this is why we do that. It'll like either the clear, definite purpose or a eulogy. You write it down, you're very specific, and you're reading it every day. Now, maybe you just you draw a blank when you come to this. Well, there's a couple of other exercises you can try that will help you to come up with that clear, definite purpose for your life. This question I got from Unreasonable Hospitality, and I love this one. His father, I can't say his last name, used to say, what would I attempt to do if I couldn't fail? Now, this is a great idea because so many times we just immediately put limitations on our lives and what we could or could not do. But if you knew that you could try it and you would succeed, you would probably take greater risk, which is part of the whole process of having this chief definite aim, is that it's getting your mind ready to do that, to achieve it. So by asking yourself that question, what would I attempt to do if I couldn't fail? That will help you to clarify what's important and what you would be willing to try, what would excite you. Because remember, that's the key. You want it to be something that's going to excite you and motivate you. Can't be too ho-hum. Another exercise you can try is the love-hate list. Just simply make a sheet of paper with 2 columns, put love on one side and hate. What are things that you love? What are things you hate? Because that helps you kind of tap into your passions. You can also think of it, and if you kind of imagine your life in 5, 10 years, what do you want or don't want in your life? Because that will help guide you. Doing even what you hate or don't want is very important because it helps you think about the things that you need to be avoiding, because those things are sucking your time and distracting you from achieving that purpose. And by having that vision, you want to be making meaningful strides towards it. Another very popular exercise is Ikigai, the Japanese principle. You usually see it as, and I'll put it in the show notes, 4 interlocking circles. And each one, it's basically asking 4 questions, and you're looking for the answer from the 4 questions that kind of overlap. And so that all you'll find some answers that are in all 4 circles. That gives you an idea of your chief definite aim. So the 4 questions: number 1, what do you love? That's getting at your passions. Number 2 is, what are you good at? The skills. And this is different than what you love. What does the world need? That gets into your sense of justice, your values, what you think is important. That shows your mission, your contribution to the world. And what can you get paid for? Because you want to, as you get paid for it, and you get that reward, and that's further motivating. So those 4 things together. You could also use for your business the same idea as the Hedgehog concept by Jim Collins. And that essentially asks the same questions, but for your business. It's, where is your passion? What can you be the best at is one of the questions. And where can you actually make a profit? And how are you contributing to the world? I can't remember the exact questions. I'll put them in the show notes. Now, if you still are kind of lost, I don't know what my passion is, I don't know what my strengths are, there are great tools out there to help you. The Gallup Strengths Survey has a lot of scientific validation and is really enlightening to help you figure out what it is that you are good at. What are your special talents? Because a lot of times, our talents, we don't even recognize as talents. We don't see it as anything special. For us, it's normal. It's natural. We don't even think of anything of it. So it's very helpful to do a survey like that to find what your actual strengths are. Another one would be the VIA character strengths. That one's developed by the team of Martin Seligman, who wrote the book Flourish, which I mentioned earlier. And this one is very similar to the Gallup one, but it gets a little bit more at your values. So that helps with those. Like in the Ikigai, you have one that's strengths and one that's kind of values. And it also helps you, again, to stay away from the things that you see are not your passions or values. You could just go to Brene Brown has a values list. So you just kind of look through the list and you can pick words that kind of resonate with you. And that helps you to determine it. So I find these tools very useful to kind of think about it and get an outside perspective, because sometimes we're just too much stuck in our own head. We don't see these. And then the important thing is not just to be taking in all this information, but give yourself time to think about it. Do a percolation hack, right? Journal about it. Maybe just give yourself some, 20 minutes. Just sit down and write down whatever comes to your mind about what you could ask those particular questions. And the other thing is, don't worry about this all being set in stone, because life circumstances change, and you may not, maybe there's a new marriage, a new relationship, a baby, or maybe a marriage fails. That could totally change where you want to go. The industry could change, the business you thought you were going to do. I mean, AI, we can look at everything changing, every single job changing in some ways. Some will not exist. Some totally new ones will exist. So it will be adaptable, and it's nice to come back and review this every year. Another thing you can do is the vision boards, which are quite popular now, as a way to remind you, but I don't want the vision board to substitute that very clear and specific phrasing that you are reading to yourself every day, because the picture is worth 1,000 words. You see it, it's quick, it's a visual, you can put it up on your wall. I have it as a screen on my desktop, so it's nice because you can see and remind it. But when you say those specific words, it really has a different effect on your brain and how you adapt that thinking and change your actions based on that. It's not a pipe dream. It makes it real and concrete. The other thing I want to remind you is having a vision like this. One of the most important things is it is a compass. So it's a compass so that you have that sense of meaning, because you start to see the way to go, the steps forward. Just like I set the goal for the marathon. Now I know, okay, I need to start by running small runs. I need to build up big ones. I have to build in rest days. I need to do some pace training, whatever. Like, it gives me a path. And I also can see that I'm moving. So that's when I see that I'm moving towards and making progress, that's when I feel that sense of meaning. But another very, very important aspect of this is a compass of what to say no to. This is a filter for our lives. We are inundated with opportunities, information, to-do list, much more so than throughout any time in history. And everything that you say yes to means you have to say no to something else. So once you know where it is you want to go, you'll able to say no to more things, and you will feel more satisfied. You're going to get out of that. When you're saying yes to everything, it's like you're being pulled in every single direction, right? You've got, all these other people around you pulling you towards what they want you to do. But when you get that vision for your life and you know very clear and definitely what you want to do, you are making the progress. You're not being pulled in a million directions. And that means by the end of the day, you feel that sense of meaning and purpose and satisfaction. You will start to feel that way today. You won't be waiting for, one day when I have more time. No, it starts today. You can start today building towards that vision. All you need to do is actually make that vision now. So just a quick reminder that what you want to do is have that clear and definite purpose, and that you're going to write it down and review it every day. Maybe you do it as a eulogy. Maybe you do it as just a simple statement. And remember, you want it to be, open up that imagination. Don't be limited by your imagination by what everyone is doing around you. Think that 10x rather than 2x. And think about how your business fits into your life vision. And start thinking of things you can do today. Now, I will put all of these links, so make sure you go to my website. It's, Mastering Business Flow. I'll put that link in here, and I'll have all those notes in there. And what I want you to do is this week, make your vision and make it visible. Write it down. You can then start to come up with an action today, tomorrow, that you can take towards that vision, and that will start to bring you the fulfillment that you started your business for. And if you are still struggling to see past the daily fires to see how you can get into this, I have a Flow Finder intensive where we spend 2 hours together coming up with this dream life compass that's going to pull you out of that kind of that vacuum, that emptiness that you may be feeling, into a state of purpose. And I want all of you to feel that. And as we each live into our purpose, we make the world a better place, and everyone benefits. So make sure you subscribe for future episodes as well. We're going to talk more about how to put systems into place that help you to live out that vision in your daily life. And don't forget to check out the show notes at masteringbusinessflow.com for all the links. And please share and tell your friends about this if you think it will help them. Wishing you a flourishing life, and I hope you start finding joy in your business today.